I would like to know, first of all, having known your folks for many, many years and having worked with your mom out to lunch at Caras Park for many years, what was it like growing up in the Simmons household?
Well, it was busy. And when they moved out to Montana, my folks and my little brother came out, and I thought I was 18 years old and going to college back in Ohio, and I thought thought I was all grown up. And then flash forward less than a year later, both my older sister and I had moved back in with mom and dad, and then my grandmother moved out. My mom's mom came to live with us, so it was like the Waltons in the U District. My brother was a block or two from Hellgate High School, and we were 4 blocks from the music building, and it was a great and that's really what growing up, I grew up in Detroit, and then and then in the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio. So, but really, my fondest memories, in a lot of ways, are the times when I was here as an alleged young man, a grown up when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Finally, when I graduated.
Tell me about your years at the University of Montana. What things really stick out for you?
Well, I came here, like I said, to visit when my several months after my parents moved out here, and I was floored by the quality of the faculty here. I mean, I didn't know from Montana. I'd hardly been west of the Mississippi at all at that point in my life, and I came from a giant university at Ohio State where I was flopping around in a giant pond, and I thought, this is the ideal combination to me, to be a slightly bigger fish in a much smaller pond out here, but the faculty are they can compete with the faculty of any university across the country, and it's in the middle of God's country, so what's not to love?
Tell me, do you get back quite a bit here to see your folks?
I don't. Fortunately, my parents get to visit us a lot. Yeah. They, all their kids and grandkids, because it is difficult for me to get back here. And oftentimes when I do get back to Montana, I spend as much or more time up in Big Fork or up around the lake as in Missoula. So it's been a real treat. Last night I left the President's Club dinner and walked across campus and through the University District over to my parents' place, and it was a really interesting combination of. It was 35 years ago or so, 33 or 4, that I graduated from here, and so much is different, but so much is the same too,
Tell me a little bit about your journey after you left the University of Montana. Obviously, you are one of the busiest actors in Hollywood right now, with all the different roles, TV and movies, and don't even go into all the things that you've done. But tell me, was there one first big break that kind of opened the doors for you?
There were dozens of big breaks that opened different doors for me. The first one was when I was a student here, and I ended up doing one of the first Missoula Children's Theater big productions of Oliver, and I was sitting in Jim Caron's office when Don Thompson called and said, "We're looking for somebody at the Big Fork Summer Playhouse to be the music director and maybe play the lead in the musical." And that was one of them. Really, just ending up at the university here, and some of the professors I was able to learn from when I was here, Don Carey and John Mount and Esther England and Professor Donald Simmons and
whoever he is.
Yeah, some of the list goes on. Then moving to Seattle, working with some directors who were sort of age appropriate for me at the time and really helped me to learn. And then meeting flash forward, auditioning for Jerry Zaks, one of the big Broadway directors, and us hitting it off and him deciding to hire me, and then meeting Sam Raimi for the first time, which ultimately led to all the Spider-Man movies. Mm-hmm. Being in a room with Tom Fontana, getting to meet the Coen brothers. There's a long list of fortuitous breaks that go all the way back and continue to happen.
So let me ask you this, and I don't mean to embarrass you in any way, but do you consider yourself a star?
No. No, I don't like that word. I think, to me the joy, and I've been preaching this, my whole life when anybody gives me a chance. The joy to me of any artistic endeavor, or really, I think any endeavor, virtually any endeavor, whether it's business or whatever, is collaborating, and I started out as a musician, as a singer, as a composer, conductor, and all that. That was what I wanted to do, and you don't do that in a vacuum, and you don't act in a vacuum either. A TV show, for example, there are literally hundreds and hundreds of people that put that together. So I think the art of collaborating is what I really derive joy from, and then it's great to be. Have gotten to a point now where I'm a recognizable actor, and you see people kind of light up because they saw Juno or Spider-Man or whatever it was, and it had a real positive impact on them, and that's a real nice thing to be a part of.
Being a TV baby myself, one of the things I first noticed, having followed you as much as I could, was Dr. Emil Skoda on the Law and Order series. Now, how did that come about?
Well, again, I should have mentioned that earlier, because that was a very fortuitous break. I had just started doing a show called Oz, which was an HBO show. It was the first made-for-cable drama show that HBO ever did, and playing a very, very nasty character, the head of the Aryan Brotherhood in a maximum security prison.
Obviously typecast.
Yes, exactly. Well, and there became the problem, because once that show hit, all the calls my agent was getting was for me to play, yet another Nazi bastard somewhere. And, I'd been doing theater for 20 years, and all of a sudden I had all this visibility, and I was smart enough to know that I didn't want that to be my career, And it just so happened that within a month or two after Oz started airing, we got a call from Law and Order, saying that they wanted me to be the new Shrink and take over that role, and it really couldn't have come at a better time in terms of sort of balancing my career with two very high-profile jobs that were vastly different characters. I called them, the psychiatrist and the psycho,
As I watched that show and watched your character develop, it seemed to me that you became more necessary as the years went on. They used you more and more, so obviously you're doing something right. They didn't kill you off or anything.
No, did not get killed off, and I think they did sort of increase the storylines that the Shrink got brought into, and that was always and really I was doing those shows concurrently for 6 years there. And fortunately, because in a strange way, the New York film and television community is pretty tight knit and pretty cooperative. We were always able to work that out. So that was a great time to be playing both of those characters in very different shows. But the one thing they have in common, and the one thing that I always look for, is that they were both really, really smart shows, really well-written shows.
Tell me about The Closer.
Well, again, the writing is what drew me to that. I had done a very short-lived series, 4 episodes, called The DA 8 years ago or so, that James Duff, the head writer of The Closer, had written, and with the same producers, and that show, which was also very well done, sort of got lost and didn't last on ABC. And then a year later, James called me and said, I've got this new show that I'm writing, and TNT is going to do it, and it looks like we're going to get at least 10 episodes and get a chance, and it's for a female protagonist to be sort of the head, but then there's this great ensemble, and I have a part that I've written with you in mind, and would you like to read it? And I literally said, no, I want to do it. I don't need to read it. I know you're writing, and I know that it's something that I'm going to want to be a part of, and here we are 7 years later, and the show has been obviously, well, it's the biggest ratings hit in the history of ad-supported cable television, and it continues to be a good show because the writers continue to grind it out and to not lapse into self-parody and jumping the shark and doing all the ridiculous things that shows often do after they become successful. And I'm continue to be proud of The Closer because not only of the cast, which is great to be a part of, but ultimately it all goes down to the writing. The play's the thing, somebody once said.
Yeah, some famous guy.
Some guy.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about the movies. I won't take up too much more of your time. But obviously, the Spider-Man movies are huge. Juno was wonderful. These were movies that are so diverse. They're so different, and yet you fit in so beautifully. How do you do that?
Well, acting.
Surprise!
Yeah. And again, that's what I started to learn, when I was here at the university and working with the Missoula Children's Theater and the Big Fork Summer Playhouse. The joy of what I get to do is that I'm allowed to be versatile, and different directors see me in different ways, and even oftentimes the same director, will recognize, oh, he could do this, but I could also cast him in this kind of a part. And I've had some great collaborations over the years from Tom Fontana and James Duff and Sam Raimi. The first film I did with him, I really think I got hired because I was from Detroit and I knew what I was talking about when we were talking about baseball. And I ended up playing the manager of the Detroit Tigers in a movie called For Love of the Game. And Sam and I clicked, and we enjoyed working together. And again, to me, it's all about collaborating. And now, both with Sam Raimi, I've done 5 films with him. I've done 3 with the Coen brothers, 4 films, and soon a 5th with Jason Reitman, who directed Juno. I've been in all of his feature films. Sometimes only with the it might even only be a voiceover or something. But to have those kinds of talented directors who are interested in working with me repeatedly is to me the sort of the ultimate collaboration.
Now, you got the farmer's part,
right?
And which I thought was brilliantly done for 30 seconds worth of time. I write and produce radio commercials, so I know what it's like to try to get information in 30 and 60 seconds. What is that like for you as an actor?
Well, first of all, again, credit to the writers. I mean, that's a very specific skill, as you were saying. To be able to be entertaining and funny and clever, but to sell a product.
You want to talk about Shakespeare? Brevity is the soul of wit.
Yeah, there you go. So the thing, I had never done an on-camera commercial in my life. I do a fair amount of voiceover here and there, but. For a long time in New York, I was, busting my hump all the time, auditioning for commercials and coming close and, trying to pay the rent because I was doing theater for a living. And then once I became, had a little more money in the bank and was a little bit more recognizable, then I didn't want to do commercials, But the farmers, they just came to to one of my agents in L.A. and had this pitch, and they had invented this character of Professor. Actually, at the time, he was called Professor Nathaniel Meeks, but they decided ultimately that Meeks sounded, meek, and then changed it to Professor Burke. And I had been the guy they had in mind to do it, and they knew I didn't do commercials, but would I be interested? And this also happened to be at the time when Spider-Man 4, they had just yanked that rug out from under us, and we suddenly found out that we weren't going to be paying the mortgage with the Spider-Man 4 money. So frankly, I needed a paycheck because I had just bought a house, and it's turned out to be we actually just committed ourselves to do another year of the Farmers Campaign. It's been
brilliant.
It's really clever and fun, and I've really enjoyed being a part of it. And the sort of humbling thing is that more people now recognize me as Professor Burke than from every film, play, TV show, everything else I've ever done in my life. More people will see the farmers commercials than all of that. So at least I'm glad that they're they're clever commercials, and we have a great time doing this. As a matter of fact, I'm working with great directors on those commercials too. It's a new end of the business for me to be involved in, but I've really enjoyed it.
Congratulations on being a distinguished alumnus of the University of Montana. I'll be talking about you from the PA booth tomorrow afternoon.
Excellent.
That's what I do. So it's been a joy to meet you. And again, congratulations. And I know it's probably not the big notch in your gun, but we sure appreciate you being here to accept it.
Oh, listen, I'm thrilled to be first of all in the company of the three other distinguished alums who have distinguished themselves in other areas of life, and it's a thrill to be back here, and I'm sitting at the president's box at the homecoming game. How bad is that? That's pretty great. Go Grizz!
All right.